The art I make is interactive installation work, or that's one way to describe it, because what it does is it takes input about the space. So in this instance, or in a lot of instances, I use a video camera to watch people moving in a space, and then I write software that generates a visual output based on that input. And so what it feels like when you're in an installation is that the visuals are just responding to your body very seamlessly. So it's interactive in that sense, that it's always changing based on what's happening in the space. Everything that happens in the projection is based on movement. So generally, if you start a work, there's nothing there, or there's kind of a base there of elements in the system that have their own behaviors. So really, when I make a piece, it's almost like creating a whole environment. So I think of all these different visual marks also have a kind of animated behavior. And then other rules about how they might react, like when they intersect where a person is, or in some cases they like attract to your trajectory, or there's all different kinds of rules that I write about how these marks react to things. But then there's a number of different behaviors layered together to create the composition of the piece. So one of the earliest interactive installations I created was a collaboration with Romy Ashatov, and that piece was called Text Rain. And that's one of the more literal installations. So the camera's in the wall so that what you see in the projection is like a big black and white video mirror of yourself. And there are letters raining down that you can actually catch with your body, and the letters are a poem. So eventually you can read certain words. You probably never read the whole poem, but you get the idea that it's not random, that there's something here that's sort of just outside your grasp. Another piece I did that I really like is called Liquid Time. It's actually a whole series. And in that piece, your movement in the space fragments pre-recorded video. So as you move, you start the video moving or rewinding, but only in certain parts of the screen. But so my idea was to subdivide the actual playback from the video frame and play smaller units. So that creates this really strange rippling and warping of time as you move around in the space. So these are ink drawings and charcoal drawings that I made that eventually became part of the Untitled 6 project. So I knew I wanted to have some elements that appear along people's trajectories, and these are also the elements that start growing into the big blobs. And I was trying to make them, computationally on the computer, and it turns out it's much easier to get the kind of variation just using ink, for me anyway, than to try to figure out how to do that mathematically or using something like Photoshop. So I scan these in and then pick the ones that I want, that I think look good in the piece, and then those are manipulated in terms of the color and their size and their orientation with the software that runs the piece. Some of the newer commissions I've been working on don't use projection. They're using LED lights more in a sculptural form. And I've just been brainstorming a lot about what does that mean for how we consider light in our world.